Well, yes, we are at Swiggy Access, which is their cloud kitchen for restaurant partners. And many of them are really calling this the future of online food delivery. Standard lot, at least 6 to 7 restaurants at one zone, catering to specific Indian sensibilities and demand. And joining me is Vishal, who's heading all the new initiatives at Swiggy.
Hey,
Vishal, nice to have you again. I think we did touch upon this trend early on.
Yes, we did.
Earlier this year. 1,000 of them, Swiggy Access points across the country. Interesting milestone. Also, finally, the fact that now you see this as a big opportunity, the fact that 1,000 is the number and the expansion is going to be the word?
Yeah. So we started this around 2 years ago, Rahul, as you know this, right? And we started it pretty much across the road. And at that point in time, our thesis was pretty simple. Our thesis was consumers need great quality food, consumers seek convenience. And given that Indian consumers have usually been devoid of a lot of food choices, we thought that cloud kitchens is the way that the industry is likely to evolve, right? This is the right way for it to be a delivery first kind of a model. And at that point in time, we were the pioneers in the business when we started out 2 years ago. Our entire effort has, over the last 2 years, has been to make sure that consumers get great quality food and partners. But at the same time, our partners see a huge value and success as far as, as the expansion goes. Today, we operate around 1,000 of these kitchens over 2 years. That possibly makes us one of the largest enablers of cloud kitchens across the world and definitely in the country. We also have done significant amount of investments along the way, right? And one of the things that gives me immense pride is that we took this bet a couple of years ago, and the amount of investment that we've made along the journey of close to around 175 crores that we've invested already.
Got it.
And another 75 that we are looking to invest in the next 6 months makes us again one of the largest investors in enabling restaurant supply in the country.
Got it. But interesting also that we saw Harsha, the co-founder and CEO, mention that this will be the biggest bet going ahead. He spoke about how this would help you to get to 99% of your consumers in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That is a massive statement. When do you really see that happening? You see that play out early, but when would you realistically be able to reach close to 99% of your consumers really?
So when you talk about pods, right, these are basically locations from which you can serve a consumer, and these pods are so close to the consumer that the travel time is 10 minutes, right? Swiggy Access is a prime example of a pod. So in any kind of a pod, the idea is to get what the consumer is genuinely seeking. Also making sure that these pods are located in a way that they're close to consumer demand pockets, right? And that's what Swiggy Access is pretty much our first foray into that. We're seeing convenience play out in a big way, right? The fact that 1,000 of these are up and operating now, and our restaurant partners are seeing immense amount of business, and the consumers keep coming back to a lot of these partners on the app to order, is likely because they're seeing great amount of consumer experience come and play out here. So I think the future is pretty clear, wherein convenience and fast deliveries is likely to create a demand hyperloop that consumers will just fall in love with.
Got it. But when do you realistically, another 5 years, 10 years down the line? Because, as far as eating houses is concerned, India still lags behind a lot more than markets like China. Of course, you do see the affordability factor, the convenience factor really up the game. But realistically, 5-10 years for India to see the change?
I would not expect it to be anything more than a decade from here on, right? I think most of the categories, the food eating habits across the world have usually taken 1 to 2 generations for them to evolve. I think India is kind of leapfrogging that. So today our assessment is, on an average, a consumer eats roughly around 12 to 15 meals outside, right? And around 50% of them are online food delivery, and 50% is what they go out and eat. We expect that number to evolve to around 40 to 50 meals in a month, right? And we think around 70 to 80% is going to be delivery. So the delivery market in itself, besides more number of consumers coming in, even the existing consumers is likely to grow 4x, 4 to 5x, right? Now, for that to happen, there is an innate need for supply to grow. And when that has to happen, it is pods like Swiggy Access that are going to enable that. So while we've created 1,000, we want to just make sure that these 1,000 are built in a way that are necessarily going to drive goodness for consumers, goodness for delivery times, but most importantly, our restaurant partners should see success coming out of it.
Got it. But what sort of investments would you be making on this going ahead? Do you have a target of 1,000 now, 2 years really? What will it take you to really expand this, considering you are talking about how this will be a large focus area going ahead?
Yes. So a couple of things, right? We kind of spoke earlier this year, and at that point in time, I had said we will do 300 by March, right? We are standing in November and we are talking about 1,000. So I think it's premature for me to even hazard a guess as to what that number is going to look like in the future. The fact is that the opportunity is extremely large. Swiggy stays committed to it. The only thing that we need to necessitate is that our partners are able to expand in the way they are, because see, at the end of the day, it's food, right? And partners have to, anyone who's cooking food has to make sure that the consumer experience and the quality is replicated from one place to another.
Got it. But would your private label brands also be housed out of Swiggy Access, so to say, or do you have a clear demarcation in terms of the private brands and how you'd really work with restaurants?
So increasingly, private label brands don't operate out of the same facility. So here, for example, in this facility, you are seeing 6 partner kitchens operate, but there is no private label business here. And increasingly, I think almost 80% of our locations are such where Swiggy Access and private labels don't operate out of the same facility.
And that's a conscious decision?
It's a conscious decision because we don't want partners to feel uncomfortable about it. We also don't want partners to necessarily feel threatened by the availability of private labels. I think the private label business was built for a very different kind of a use case. We call it private labels, but in essence, it's actually category expansion, right? We work on use cases that partners don't necessarily work on.
Got it. But Vishal, does it also help you address concerns? You spoke about how you wouldn't want the restaurant partners to feel uncomfortable with the private brand on the same premise, which brings to the larger concern, and we've seen that play out over the last year in terms of conversations with restaurant partners, deep discounting, also the fact that private label is being pushed on the platform. Does this help you to send out a message also consciously to restaurants that you're there with them for the long haul? Because there is that conflict, right? That's quite evident.
I think our conscious effort is not towards the message, right? Our conscious effort was towards the ethos of the business. And the ethos when we built Swiggy Access was always partner success first, which is why when we built the business model as well, we were extremely conscious that this model is not going to grow unless the partners see goodness out of it. Now today we are at a stage where 60% of our partners, when they open the first kitchen, within the first 3 months, they want to open a second one, right? So the fact is they see a huge amount of goodness come out of this model. It makes money for them, and that's why they feel confident about this model. Now that honestly is something where we feel extremely proud of, right? Because if we've built an ecosystem where the partner sees goodness, it is automatically on a growth trajectory. Now, if the partners on a larger base start seeing that as a principle and start absorbing it and start noticing, saying, okay, Swiggy is genuinely interested in my growth, of course it helps us. But that was not the starting point. The starting point was not saying, okay, we need to do something that brings partner anxiety down. The starting point was we have to build a business line that partners can feel excited about.
But the larger conversation that you would have with restaurants is the larger issue that you would address in different ways, right? To ensure that the platform is sustainable in the long haul across...
Oh, absolutely. At the end of the day, right, when we talk about an ecosystem, the ecosystem can thrive only when everyone involved in the ecosystem is a commercially viable business, right? As in, the commercial goals of the restaurant partners have to be met, the commercial goals of the delivery executives have to be met, and obviously Swiggy runs a business, so the commercial goals of Swiggy have to be met. But all three sides have to necessarily meet their commercial goals, while the consumer needs to get a great experience at the value that he or she seeks.
Got it.
And that's where our endeavor has been.
Got it. Would you really